debate transcends medium. You could be talking hoops and arguing is Michael Jordan or LeBron James the better player. You could be talking music and saying is Michael Jackson or the Beatles the best of all time. And when it comes to movies, a name that's often brought up is Steven Spielberg. As of late, a lot of the GOAT tier directors have been receiving a little bit of backlash. Whether that's Christopher Nolan and the online, and I should mention stupidly controversial comments regarding his choices for The Odyssey. It could be with Martin Scorsese and how a certain pocket of the internet are not very receptive of his embrace of AI. And for Steven Spielberg, I would say Disclosure Day, at least for the first half of the movie, would be a blemish on his record. Welcome to Fantasy Filmball. My name's Dyl, and yes, you guessed it, I'm back with a review of Disclosure Day. But before we get into that, we just launched a brand new website. You want to head over there and check out a written version of this review and even more award season content. Be sure to join our Discord as well, where you can take place in our community Oscar predictions over an awards expert, as well as discuss the latest film news with fellow movie fans at large. And if you enjoy the video, a like, a subscription goes a long way in helping our channel continue to grow. But now, let's talk Disclosure Day, which stars Emily Blunt, a meteorologist and a cybersecurity expert played by Josh O'Connor, who find themselves at the center of a movement to expose the government's cover-up of extraterrestrial secrets. And that doesn't even begin to touch the iceberg. The story by Spielberg and the screenplay by David Coep just have too much going on. And at times, it just feels like it's jumping from one thing to the next without much substance. It really kind of leaves you clueless at what is going on. There are stretches inside this movie where action is taking place on screen, but I really don't feel like we're learning anything new, or more importantly, really grasping with what we had just seen play out on screen. But none of that matters when you have a performance like Emily Blunt's. Blunt is a chameleon inside of Disclosure Day. She delivers career best work that I wish I could extend this gratitude to the rest of the film at large, because the way that Blunt just nails this character is just really extraordinary. She always keeps you on your toes with which direction she's about to go down next, whether it's the language that she's speaking, the dialect in her tone, the body movements at large, or just Emily Blunt's screen presence. She's truly the MVP of Disclosure Day. And if this review does anything, it's to be the Disclosure Day of Emily Blunt's supremacy between her work earlier this year in The Devil Wears Prada 2 and how she absolutely steals the show there, here inside Disclosure Day, and just her illustrious catalog at large of often being a huge underrated performance inside of whatever movie that she's in. I'm just glad that we finally have a specific performance to point to and say, hey, this is the best thing that you've ever done inside your career. Now, I'm not an overtly negative person, so I don't want to dive into why Josh O'Connor feels like a blank slate in all the worst ways possible, or how Eve Houston is giving an absolute stinker of a performance. And I also don't want to dive into all the ways that this movie loses me throughout its runtime with its convoluted plot, messy storytelling, or not really having a clear path forward. Instead, I want to play spin doctor a little bit. I want to talk about the features of Disclosure Day that really resonate with me, because I've already discussed Emily Blunt, but I also was so locked in for the last 15 to 30 minutes of this movie. Once all of our plot lines converge at this Kansas City news station, I feel like Spielberg's cohesion comes to full fruition. Using this production room at the news station as the catalyst for this film's message, I found to be so effective. Now, is that partially because this is my line of work? Live directing of a broadcast, pulling in multiple sources, and making the show run smooth? Quite possibly, but just like September 5 from a few years ago, this movie really nails that feeling, that euphoria you have. Once all these storylines finally come together, a lot of my issues with Disclosure Day from before do kind of go by the wayside. I'm now drawn into what's going on. I now do see its intentions. There's a specific interaction in that sequence that quite moved me. My more so issue comes from Disclosure Day at large and the journey that we have to go on to get to these moments. It's oftentimes kind of rocky. Whether that's every line of dialogue that seems to dance around being blunt and direct about what is going on screen and causing us just to be kind of confused and lost in the plot, or how any time a roadblock gets in the way of Emily Blunt or Josh O'Connor's characters from accomplishing their goals, a gift from God allows them to continue. This could be some of the most unintelligent police force of all time that we've seen play out on film, just making every wrong turn or just not properly searching a crime scene. It could be the stormtrooper-like accuracy with their firearms, or how a car wreck in a very specific style that just holds up the rest of the force behind them, allowing a platform for our two leads to continue to be on the run. This could be a plot device that comes into play only when it's needed and forgot about every other scenario. Or the worst offender of them all is just characters making the dumbest decisions that don't make sense in the moment, and especially don't make sense when they come on to happen later on down the line. I'm a massive fan of Steven Spielberg. That's partially why I am left feeling a little bit disappointed in Disclosure Day. While I was so enamored with Emily Blunt's phenomenal leading performance, and I was blown away about how the story ultimately wraps up, the lack of care with these characters or the story, or really enough the glimpses of Spielberg's artistic flair that pop in at certain sequences and out at others, it just felt very mute throughout the runtime. If you told me this movie was directed by someone else, I would probably believe you for the majority of it. It doesn't feel like Steven Spielberg's artistic style is dripped all over the production. This just feels like your run-of-the-mill sci-fi action film with a few aspects of greatness added in throughout. All in all, I know I will be in the minority here. Just leaving my press screening tonight, the people who got in front of me to talk to the rep about how much they love this movie, one person, in fact, went as far to say that their favorite Steven Spielberg movie to date is Disclosure Day. To me, that's insane. How can you say this is Spielberg's best in his career? So clearly, there's going to be a range of opinions here. While I may be mixed, I have shown why I really responded to certain aspects and why some other ones keep me at an arm's bay. You, the listener here, can go to this movie and maybe this becomes your new personal favorite Spielberg movie like that guy who got in front of me. Or maybe you might say this is the worst movie that he's had in over a decade, like Matt would say here on the channel. That's the beauty about the art form. Not every LeBron James game is going to be a masterclass. Not every MJ song is an instant classic. Greatness isn't measured by perfection. It's measured by a total body of work, and Disclosure Day may ultimately land on the lower tier of my Spielberg rankings inside his filmography. But when your career includes decades of redefining what blockbuster filmmaking can be on the big screen, one disappointment doesn't erase your entire resume. It simply becomes your next chapter inside of it. And because we are an awards channel at the end of the day, let's dive into Disclosure Day's Oscar prospects. And for me, these would be kind of weird because I've seen some of the early reactions. The social embargo's been up, and some people are saying this is Spielberg's best movie and who knows how long. Like The Fabelmans didn't just come out, like West Side Story didn't just come out, and they're saying, hey, this is Spielberg operating at his best in full force, and I just don't really see that. So I'm trying to be impartial here in going through these Oscar prospects. I think we've seen time and time again, John Williams, this guy is a branch favorite. He's an Academy darling. He's going to get nominated. Now, I will throw an asterisk. Some of his recent nominations are coming for either Best Picture nominees or they're coming tied to franchise and IP that consistently get nominated. Look at Star Wars. Look at Indiana Jones. This is an original movie. The score, at least to me, wasn't an aspect that jumped out of the screen to me. So, like, would I be shocked if John Williams missed the nomination? No. But should I predict that? Also no, because he's John Williams. He's just going to get that nomination. That moves us over to Best Lead Actress for Emily Blunt. My neighbor's dog is barking because even they know that Emily Blunt is phenomenal inside this movie. The question just is, if this movie's not a Best Picture contender, can she really happen? This feels like the performance every year that online people are saying, hey, we need to make it happen. We want to see this happen. She's Emily Blunt. She hasn't got enough recognition. It's got to be another nomination. And due to the movie that it is, due to the type of performance that it is, it just doesn't happen at the end of the day. The only issue there is Emily Blunt now is inside the club. She just got nominated for Oppenheimer. Everyone, even people who don't love the movie like myself, are saying she is the highlight here. So I can see a path for Emily Blunt. She could get Golden Globe. She could get SAG. She could get Critics' Choice. Maybe misses the BAFTA. That's 3 out of the big 4. And at that point, you're in the Oscar conversation. And that now leaves us with Best Sound, Best Visual Effects. I would say no, these shouldn't happen. Matt will talk about how the animals look and how bad they look. There are other extraterrestrial beings that look pretty good in my opinion. They're just not on screen very often. And the sound work, at least at the IMAX screen, I saw that KOP here in Philadelphia, which is one of the few theaters that does IMAX 70. So you would feel like they would have a good sound system. The sound mix to me, especially in the first act, was really rough. So maybe sound could happen, but I also don't don't really think it needs to. Same thing for visual effects. And at that point, Best Picture, if it's on the table, if this is a huge box office hit, if audiences, critics, guild members, Academy members, industry at large just say it's Spielberg, he does that thing. He's really good. He's the GOAT, as I mentioned before. We got to get him in an awards race. I just don't know what his package can be. Is Emily Blunt score and maybe sound and visual effects, is that enough? Probably for like a 10th slot, but like I don't think visual effects and sound need to happen. Screenplay is definitely not happening. Casting's not. Nothing else above the line. Spielberg's not happening himself. And like there's just no other text that just leap off the page that need to happen. So if I had to make a prediction here on June 8th, I would have score in, I would have Emily Blunt like borderline, and then sound and visual effects kind of off in the way distance. But that's going to bring us to the conclusion of this review and Oscar breakdown for Disclosure Day. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Once again, the description box down below has a link to our website, has the Discord link where you can join the conversation. A like, a comment that keeps you up to date with everything that we're doing here on Fantasy Filmball. But until next time, my name's Dyl. Peace.